Do you ever wonder what globalization is? Well, take a look at this: trade, travel, communication, transportation, media and entertainment, political stability, culture. These are all examples in which globalization may occur. But what is really the concrete definition of globalization? According to Manfred Steger, he described globalization as the expansion and intensification of social relations and consciousness across world time and across world space. It is an uneven process that affects people differently. Globalization is a complex phenomenon that occurs at multiple levels. On the economic aspect, we have economic globalization. This is characterized by the increasing integration of economies around the world through movement of goods, services, and capital across borders. We also have the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development and the International Monetary Fund, in which up until now, these institutions remain the key players in economic globalization. However, it must be remembered that economics is just one window into the phenomenon of globalization. Nevertheless, much of globalization is anchored on the changes in the economy.
Economic globalization refers to the widespread international movement of goods, capital, services, technology, and information. It is the increasing economic integration and interdependence of national, regional, and local economies across the world through an intensification of cross border movement of goods, services, technologies, and capital. The process of globalization of the world economies has recently generated different perspectives from different countries. The increased openness of economic life around the globe has generated great benefits to vast number of people. But not everybody has gained from globalization or gained equally, but never have so many people in so many countries lived so well. And we can see that in our situation here in the Philippines compared to Western developed countries. People can have different experiences of globalization based on the country's individual economic standing as to how it helped people to make more businesses or how their people earn a living in lesser cost. We can conclude that countries are striving for the benefits of economic globalization through different ways, such as welcoming foreign investments, improving educational system, enriching their tourism industry to attract more countries, striving for progress and battle through the international level of economic development. It is important to study international relations as a facet of globalization because state or governments are key drivers of global processes. It is also very important to take note that international relations today are largely defined by the events that occurred as far back as 400 years ago. A form of world government, as Immanuel Kant have argued, should be imposed to avoid chaos in the international system or in the international relations. Therefore, states, like citizens of countries, must give up freedom and establish a continuously growing state consisting of various nations which will ultimately include the nations of the world that will promote order or peace in the international scheme. With this, British philosopher Jeremy Bentham advocated the creation of the international law that would govern the international relations. International law consists of the norms, rules, regulations that promote peace and order of all the countries in the world. These global legislators should aim to propose legislation that would create the greatest happiness of all nations taken together. However, the proposals for global government in the international law seem to represent challenges to states as they have thought that the world government would become supreme and would overwhelm the sovereignty of the individual states. With this, Mazzini, an internationalist, saw nationalism as a prerequisite for internationalism. He believed that the world's nation had a right to free and sovereign government through nationalism and self-determination of individual states. He hoped that these free nations would become democracies because only by such would be able to build a free system of international relations based on international law and cooperation. It is concluded that studying the history of international relations is very crucial in understanding global politics. We must understand that interdependence and global governance comes hand in hand towards globalization. Having one global government system would increase the interdependence of each individual states, therefore increasing the phenomenon of globalization. International relations can be understood through the relationships between cities, nation states, and international organizations. This relationship is governed by an international law by the global legislators, which consist of global norms and policies to make the different states as one, and we can see the international organization such as the United Nations as an example.
Now, let's track back to the lessons under semifinals. This whole period circulates on the internationalization, regionalization, and religion. International organizations aimed towards country cooperations. Although during 1960s to 1970s, international organizations were believed to be a mere venue, it became more evident that it can take on lives on their own. International organizations have the power of classification, power to fix meanings, and the power to diffuse norms. The known United Nations were created to maintain an international peace and security, more importantly, to be a center for harmonizing actions of nations. Moving on, the smaller segments in the world is called regions. It was established to examine identities, ethics, religion, ecological sustainability, and health of the countries. It is also believed to build military defense, protect independence, and compels countries to come together during economic crisis. Since we were talking about regions, which is an essential part of globalization, the most difficult relationship with globalization is the religion. This belief is so opposite to that of globalization because their goals are different. But religion itself makes use of the globalization due to the cost that it utilizes the latter to spread their beliefs all around the world. They may be contradicting, but they agree on the common ground that they want to expand their community. To look at it holistically, regions, regional and international organizations are driven towards the betterment of the countries, but more importantly, to better the interaction among the world. People may have different beliefs. We are encouraged to make the world a better place for us and for the next generations to come.
Pleasant afternoon to everyone. Let's go back to the topic during our finals, wherein let's classify and summarize our learnings. The whole period really tackles about media and globalization, wherein I can say that it's like the importance of globalization to media, or it's like importance to media to globalization and vice versa. Okay? So, media can be defined as the main means of mass communication, just like broadcasting, publishing, and the internet regarded collectively. The mass media, which is the plural form of media, as we know, are today seen as a playing key role in enhancing globalization and facilitating cultural exchange and multiple flows of information and images between countries through international new broadcasts, television programming, new technologies, film, and music. Okay. We're going to look back like before. We don't have this kind of media that we will just look into our phones and we can directly have the news. We need to buy newspapers, magazines, and other printed products that will tell us more information about the present days. But since then, television came, then to computers, cell phones, and gadgets, even internet wherein everyone is very dependent on technology. Because through gadgets, we can easily have information, news, weather updates, favorite band or music, games, and everything we need. Before, we need to cook for our daily food and snacks. But right now, we can just easily connect to the internet, tap our phones, access the app, and let someone deliver our food or things that we need online. So, media and globalization do somehow affect our lives in a positive way and more in a negative way. The more we use media correctly and efficiently, the more our lives will get better and the more uh, our world will commence to the better future. So, this is Group 6 presenting our summarization of learnings. Thank you for listening and may God bless everyone.